Hello and welcome to the Gambling Files podcast, the podcast that has a very, very interesting question to ask my co-host. I'm one of your hosts, John Bruford, joined by your other host, Fintan Costello. Fintan, hello.
Hello, John.
Quick question before I introduce the guest, right? You're Irish, right? And your wife is Australian.
Correct.
And you live in the Netherlands.
Yes.
What accent does your son have?
English.
That's just fucked up. It's like English is some kind of mongrel accent where if you just throw people together from different backgrounds, it's like a black and tan dog.
Let's not bring in the black and tans, mate. That's a completely different...
Oh my God, you had to go there, didn't you?
You brought it up.
Yeah, somebody said to me, if you leave all dogs to just get on with it, eventually all dogs will just end up black and tan. That's why most mongrels are black and tan dogs, right? Okay. But I wasn't alluding to where you took it.
The key point is my wife's got an English accent as well, so he picked up her accent.
What?
So yeah.
How does your wife have an English accent?
Because she was born in the UK originally.
Oh.
They moved when she was young, but she grew up in Australia. She's like Australian citizen and stuff, so she considers herself more Australian than English.
Well, she must have had a tough time at school, being so much better than the others.
Pretty much.
Of course, Mel Gibson was famously born in New York.
Was he?
He was, yeah. It's really bizarre, the shit I keep in my head for just such an occasion.
And then the stuff you forget as well, right? It's
really important stuff.
Weird, it's the opposite. So who's our guest today, John?
That is a great question, Fintan, and I'm glad you asked it to me. You're here to ask the hard-hitting questions, and I appreciate that. Fintan, we are joined by, and I've written his name out phonetically, so I can't even get it wrong. We're joined by Matt Bakowicz.
No.
Fuck.
No.
Bakowicz.
No.
Bakovici.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Bakowicz.
You usually get the names right.
Yeah. Matt, what's your name?
Matt Bakowicz.
Well, I'm not going to say co like that, but nobody would say that. Nobody in their right mind would say that.
It depends what country you're from, but
I think you'll find that you're getting your name wrong there, Matt.
You know, it's quite funny. Whenever my dean introduces me, he always makes a comment that the quiz at the end of this presentation will be how to say his name correctly. So I've heard it many a times, but yeah, Bakowicz is how we say that. But everybody just calls me Matt or Professor B. It's a lot easier.
Do you have a famous brand of tinfoil in America? And if you do you call it Bacofoil?
I mean, aluminum. I don't know. I don't know if we have that.
Well, we call it Bacofoil, but I'm just wondering if you would call it Bacofoil.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think John, you're just going to take the loss here on this one. And
Yeah, I'm like a Jack Russell Terrier, Fintan. I never know when I'm actually dead.
Annoying and craps everywhere.
Pretty much. I'll pee on your leg just when you're not looking.
The classic phrase, when you're digging the hole and you've gotten too far down, stop digging.
Fuck that. Carry on until you reach China. Anything else is quitting. So, Matt, you are the program director of the sports management program at American University. Now, I just want to clarify something for listeners. American University is an actual thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
I didn't make that up.
It is in Washington, D.C. We're located in the northwest area of Washington, D.C., right by all the international embassies. So trying to explain to non-English speakers that you're in America at American University does take a few minutes to get that dialogue through. But Yes, I've been here now almost a year, and we're building our sports management program. We currently have about 90 students enrolled right now in the program, and we're continuing to grow. So we are relatively young. I did the math this morning prior to the show. I am 5 months and 23 days on the job. So it's been a very good and very fast start, and we're excited where things are going.
You mentioned the word international in there, Matt, and I think it's as good a time as any to mention that today's episode is brought to you by Gaming Laboratories International. I don't know if you're both aware of this, but GLI is a world-class testing, inspections, and certification company committed to delivering the highest quality land-based lottery and iGaming testing and assessment services around the world. Just in case you didn't know, GLI provides suppliers, operators, and regulators with expert guidance for navigating the future of gaming and ensuring gaming innovations meet regulatory standards with confidence in more than 710 jurisdictions. And if you're taking notes and you would like more information, visit gaminglabs.com.
It's amazing how you've memorized that, John.
I know, I told you, it's weird, the things that I keep in my head.
Just rolls off the tongue.
And then, remembering to, bathe. No. It's not even there. It doesn't even register in my head.
Not even close.
No, not until the kids say, Daddy, you smell like a dead thing again. And I go, I've been digging up bodies, kids.
So
Good
Matt,
times.
what's on the sports management program? What's kind of the main, is it like a series of degree programs, or is it like one degree program, or one program, or how does that work?
Great question. It is a specialization. So the way I've designed it is two parts. One, it's very front office and business focus. So anything that's involved in the program deals with operations, the front office, anything that would have business attached to sports. And it's a 15 credit, essentially 5-class model. Excuse me, doing my math here roughly. 15 credits, 5-class model, and 3 credits per class. And the nice part about how we structure it is we have some of our core classes, but we allow for specialization based on career interests. So simple examples, if I have students that are interested in sports journalism, we have a track for that. If I have students that are interested in operations and sponsorships, we have that track. Very proud of our sports analytics class, those that are interested in doing anything analysis-wise with analytics, whether it's from a business office standpoint or a player evaluation standpoint. We have that track. We have a class on baseball and economics, which is pretty cool, sports marketing. And my course, which I have a strong feeling is why both of you brought me on, is our Introduction to Sport Gaming, which has a heavy emphasis on the sports betting world and how that world has integrated into mainstream sports really worldwide. So it's very niche. It's housed in our business school. Only about 16% of sports programs are in business schools. So a student that has a finance interest or an accounting interest or marketing interest can also layer that with a sporting interest as well, and kind of be very flexible and interchangeable when they reach the working world. So that is my sales pitch that I've also memorized, John. So I've gotten that pretty good as well.
Fintan, Matt mentioned in that sponsorships.
He did mention sponsorships, and that was exactly the trigger I was looking at as well. I would like to thank OptiMove. And if you want to learn how OptiMove's positionless marketing is changing
I do.
how iGaming teams operate, and discover how operators are using OptiMove's positionless marketing platform to launch personalized CRM campaigns, dynamically change casino lobbies and bet slips, and create engaging gamified experiences, you can learn more at optimove.com. But wait, there's even more.
No.
And I think actually Professor B might like this one too. OptiMove Connect is returning to London March 11th and 12th. It's the only conference where marketers from around the world are sharing real-world results of positionless marketing, driving efficiency and ROI. And you can register for that at connect.optimove.com.
That sounds the absolute balls.
I think it's brilliant.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I like it. Great. And sponsorships are available of many, many podcasts. So, Matt, what does your course actually do then?
So, kind of three parts. Part one is really a dive and an overview into what the sports gaming industry looks like. So, that's all the way from what does line setting, probability, handle, hold at a casino look like, to what do general operations look like in a sports book and sports setting, to what does the online gaming world look like. So, almost, I would say, a crash course for the first 3 to 4 weeks on everything that is involved in the gaming industry related to sports betting. We then move into sort of an overview of the economy of the gaming world. So, what does that look like here in the United States? What does that look like internationally? For us, our two big players, of course, were Las Vegas in its early days and Atlantic City in 1976. And now, internationally, gaming has been regulated, all across the entire country. And then, what does the online and world market look like? And then we culminate with this idea that when it comes to gaming, when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to sports, it's a symbiotic circle, is my phrase I like to use. It's not just about the slot machine at the casino or the sports bet or the concert or the food and beverage. It all works together in harmony. And I kind of look at my course as the last part is the team building aspect, where it's not you being an expert in every entity of your facility or every entity of your operation, but understanding how to speak the language, understanding why food and beverage is doing what they're doing, understanding why entertainment needs to be in 4.5 hours prior, layering your operations so that you can maximize guest resort satisfaction over the course of a day, realizing that you might not have any money made at your restaurant that evening, but your hotel rooms are $1,000 a night, and that's how things balance out. So talking about the industry as a whole, and that's really what we look at doing throughout the semester. So it's we're 6 weeks in. This is a brand new course here at the university. I'm a brand new professor, and it's been going very well. We've had great reception. I think my favorite part is the guest speakers that we've brought in, individuals that own horses in the horse racing industry, those that are media broadcasters talking about lines and analytics, those that have worked in stadium operations. The list goes on. And again, we're only a couple weeks in, so it's been a lot of fun.
What I love about this is because there's typically two types of academics, right? There's the academic who's always been an academic, and so they're really, really good at like the theory. But you've actually got a background in the industry, and you've moved into academics. And I think the real world experience, it's like in a business school. I'm guaranteed there's going to be business professors in your school that have never launched a business, or actually had a job outside of academia. And I think it's very difficult to teach a topic if you haven't actually lived it. But I think what's fascinating about you is like you've actually been there, done that, huge track record in this space. How did you, what was the transition of I've done this, I'm going to move to academia? Like, what was that moment?
Let me give you the timeline that'll probably answer that question. So I started out, I went to undergrad and graduate school at Penn State, worked in graduate school in a research lab doing analysis with Nike Golf. For listeners, if they've ever seen somebody in an animated suit with a bunch of silver dots on them walking around and doing motion capture for animated movies, that was my job, but with golf swings. So was undergrad, graduate school, academic world, worked at Penn State for a number of years, about 6 years, and made the transition really because I love teaching and I love being in the academic space. But Fintan, to your point, I knew I would be a better teacher if I got some practical experience. And there was an opportunity to leave Penn State and go and manage the sports book operations at Foxwoods Resort and Casino. I got to oversee sports betting, racebook, and Keno. And I also worked with the Boston Red Sox for 2 years doing game day compliance, and worked on the trading floor with Simple Bet, which was a micro market betting platform. It was a startup that grew into an amazing company that was then acquired by DraftKings. So all those experiences that I got to do. Oh, and by the way, on the side note, I also built the eSport management program at St. Joseph University in West Hartford. So I say all this to answer that question. How did I get from point A to point B? It was making a decision that I'm going to be a better teacher with this practicality knowledge, and I just need to find the right opportunity to come back to. And lo and behold, last April, this opportunity was available and was present. I love Washington, D.C. I love the idea of building my own program. But more importantly, I could build a program that was business focused, and that my teaching philosophy is really simple. I want you to learn something you can apply on the job. I know it's basic. I know it's not super complicated. It's not 25 pages. But I think it resonates with my students. And, you mentioned theory's great. I'm a practicality professor, but we go hand in hand. I learn from my colleagues who are all about theory. It's sort of like, I'll use a sport analogy. They make the play call. They run it through my headset. I execute it on the field. And you need both. And I think a great academic institution like what we have here relies on both. You have your theory, you have your practicality. And if you combine both of them, it works pretty well. So long answer, but that's how we got from point A to point B.
But you did all the jobs. Like, it wasn't like I'm just going to go out into industry and like take on a job. Like you took on.
Yeah. How old are you, Matt?
I just turned 35 in January, so I'm not too young. I'm up there in age.
Oh, that's not that is young.
No,
that's young.
that is young.
Person on this podcast.
Like I had a period of overachieving in my career early on, obviously, but like that's like you just like when the. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned it in the crazy list that you just said, but before we started recording, you were talking about your experience working at Foxwoods and running stuff. I mean, like, that's Foxwoods, dude. That place is legendary. I mean, at one point it was the most profitable casino in North America, wasn't it?
Yes, opened 1992, 1993 era. I learned, and I can reveal this because it's kind of funny, they were so profitable that they just had rooms full of money. They were 6 months behind on just counting the money. They would just take money and throw it in a room. Yes.
Fenton, we're in the wrong business.
Fifth largest.
Oh, you don't have a money room?
I know, right? Fifth largest casino in the world. Great organization, huge resort property. I learned a lot. I think the biggest takeaway I took from Foxwoods was how to interact with other human beings, how to interact with the public. The gaming industry, and I talk about this in class, is one of the few industries where 50% of your clients get a negative product. You don't go to a restaurant and have 50% of your clients getting, bad meals. You don't go to a sporting event and have half that. Well, I don't know. I'm a Philly person, so there's certain days when more than 50% of the stadium is a little upset. And for those that are on the American side, you know what I'm talking about. But I say this because, yes, there are things that happen in the gaming world where you do take a loss. You don't, the dealer, the dealer pulls a 4 when they're hitting on a soft 17 kind of deal. So you have to manage that clientele as well with the ones that are very happy with success. And you learn it's not just about the gaming, it's about offering the experience, it's about offering quality service, it's putting together a really good product. And that product may not necessarily be a slot machine or a sports bet, but an overall experience. And I spent 3.5 years there learning that, and that was extremely valuable because the world's not black and white. It's a gray area. Things happen. It's never this linear pattern, and I think that makes me a better teacher in the classroom.
And the gray area thing, that's an interesting kind of segue, I suppose, because one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you was prop bet manipulation. And I suppose if we kind of take... what I'm really curious of is prop bet manipulate, or like betting manipulation in general, I suppose, is it becoming more common, or is it because the industry is better regulated that it's easier, it's being detected quicker and more effectively?
It is the latter. It's betting, cheating in gaming has gone back. There was a great Pawn Star episode where an individual was trying to trade in a device that was used to cheat at poker that I think was from the 1800s. So the idea of manipulation and cheating in gaming, not a new thing. Been around forever. Point shaving scandals in sports and sport manipulation, been around forever. It's not something new. What is new, though, is the standard by which sports betting is operating under. U.S. Integrity, I point to out of Las Vegas, is a very strong company that monitors literally, and I don't mean this figuratively, literally everything. The law has been written where when I see a bet, when I was working in this industry, when I see something that looks off or something that's an outlier, I by law have to report that to an integrity company, which in turn has to report that to the league. It is written in the law. It's written in regulations. So what you're seeing is a higher level and a higher standard for detecting fraud. That's why we're seeing these events happen. And I look at that personally as a very positive thing. I mean, obviously nobody wants fraud, but I look at the process of there are companies out there and there's an industry that's trying to protect the integrity of the game. And there's harsh punishments that are being leveled for those that choose not to protect that integrity of the game. And that's what it's all about. That was my, responsibility working with Major League Baseball, was protecting the integrity of the game from illegal equipment or illegal items being entered into the field. That's the responsibility of sports betting, is to do this. But because you now have this higher standard, you're going to find more things. You're going to find errors. But if you do look at it from a percentage, this is the 99.9% of things are on the up and up. That 0.1%, that one or two activation things are where we're seeing the issue. But I'm happy that it's being addressed. I'm happy that it's being warned. I just hope that the punishment does fit the crime, and it's not something where, it's okay for me to do this because I'm, no harm, no foul. There needs to be, harsh punishments for that manipulation that occurs.
I've so many follow-ups.
Sure.
Can I nip in first?
Go on.
Because I haven't got many follow-ups. No, it's just something I was thinking about, because I was thinking about this before we started recording, actually. We had a guy we've got another podcast called Addiction, An Hour with Hour, and we have this guy, Dr. Michael Auer, is my co-host, and he's an academic and gambling addiction researcher and psychologist and data analyst, because he also has too much free time. And we had an author on, and the episode's not actually out yet, but it'll be out in a couple of weeks. We had an author on, a guy called Danny Funt, who's done a book about getting the legalization of sports betting badly wrong. And I made a point to Danny, and it was really interesting because he hadn't considered this, and I think that's an American thing. America has unique vulnerabilities that other countries don't have and never will have. And that is your fixation and attention on college sports that other countries don't have. It's not a thing in any other country in the world. But it's almost professional standard. It's almost professional standard scrutiny. The figures for the Rose Bowl are insane. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a big, big deal. Everybody knows who the picks are in the draft when it's coming up, whatever the sport is. It's a big, big deal. But these are young people. They're not media trained. They're not protected by the same thing that athletes are protected by. They don't have the big salaries and the gated communities and all that jazz. Most of these athletes are regular kids. Most of them aren't going to go into professional sports. That's a really unique and massive vulnerability for what we're talking for people monkeying with integrity, and unique to the US.
Not only, you're exactly right. It's on any given Saturday, there can be between 118 to 145 college basketball games. 130 that may never see any mainstream media. And those are the ones that are most susceptible. It's not this Saturday, Duke played Michigan in front of close to, 18,000 individuals and a national TV audience. Those are not your targets of manipulation. What you're looking at is a small school that most people don't know where the location's at, in a gym that might have 50 to 60 fans watching the game, where, nefarious actions can occur. So you're not wrong. What the solution that the NCAA has proposed is strong education. And this is the advocate that I'm at. But it's not education like people think telling individuals something's wrong. People learn from the age of 3 or 4 what's wrong. You know when you've done something wrong. I knew when my mom would yell Matthew Michael, which is my middle name, that I did something wrong, whether I was 3 or 33. It's the same process. Where the education is really strong, and this is actually, I teach the education here at American University to our student athletes, is showing them what happens when the money runs out, or what happens when you get caught. In a sense of, you can get, we'll just use a random figure here. Somebody can pay you $10,000 to throw a basketball game. In the grand scheme of things, that $10,000 is not going to last you a long period of time, and it's not going to put you in a situation where you're going to be, set for life, if you will. Eventually, everyone will get caught. The systems that are in place, you will get caught. Might not be that week, might not be that month. Some of the cases that were being processed right now from 2023. But you will be found out. The analytics don't lie. It is easy to detect. And at that point, you're looking at the rest of your life having a conviction on your record, having a challenge getting a job, having a challenge really navigating the rest of society, because this will always hang over you. That's where the education needs to come in. And that's what I try to teach is, look, this is not a good idea to begin with. But you don't need to think about it that it's not a good idea because of an immediate punishment. You need to realize that this is a long-term thing that could follow you around for a very long period of time. And you look at the world of the internet, things don't get deleted. So that's, it is vulnerable. The NCAA is doing a good job with education, and you need more individuals like myself and other professors. Carnegie Mellon here in the U.S. does a great job with this education, to talk to people and say, this is why you shouldn't be involved with this, or go down a road that could lead to some negative action.
But if I was going to rig a college basketball game, I wouldn't just like walk up to a kid and offer him $10,000, right?
Yeah, so, that's exactly what you'd do.
I think there's more.
You're overthinking it, Fintan. You're trying to commit the perfect crime.
But then, in its basic sense, it is identifying a person that would be most vulnerable to that conversation. But in short, it actually is legitimately getting in contact with that person, saying, "I will give you this amount of money to do this."
But if you think it, like there's like, what was it, the Porter case where he was, he racked up gambling debts. Mm-hmm. Right, and then he was kind of coerced into whatever he was doing to help pay off his debt. So, if somebody had been through your education program, taking this money is bad, it's not going to last a long time. But if I've helped the player dig a hole for himself through debt, and he owes me money, and we're going to break his kneecaps or whatever, and this is his way out, or there's blackmail involved, or there's other ways to manipulate the player that even if they know it's wrong, they feel like they've literally got no choice.
You're not wrong.
And that's very difficult for an 18, 19, 20-year-old, let alone somebody older, to deal with, right?
And you're not wrong, and that's why, from that standpoint, that is a pathway. But in all honesty, the other pathway is just simply figuring out, like, hey, you want to do this? That's also why, I talk about education. So, if you're not a student athlete, should you, or if you're involved with the team, the moral of the story is, if you have a connection to the sport, it's probably best that you stay as far away from the gaming industry as possible. Allow this to be something that enhances the fan experience, not your own personal athletic experience. Focus on, as I say, putting the ball in the hoop, running into the end zone, kicking it into the net. Focus on those kind of things. But it's a lot of stuff. And I think that the only way you're going to see change is the continuation of this regulation, the continuation of identifying where nefarious actions happen, and strong enforcement of punishment to show individuals, like, if you do this, this is the consequence. This is what's going to happen. And kind of going off that. But it's going to be a Wild West for this period of time. We here in the States, unlike internationally, we've only really legalized sports betting all across the country since 2018. We have 39 of the 50 states that are running this. So we're not established like, Europe or Australia, which has had this for years and had regulated companies. It's a lot different here. So there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be a lot of issues. There's no doubt about that.
Growing pains is a good jumping off point. So obviously, you're talking about, a traditional sports book, or a land-based casino, or a sports book within a casino, or an online sports book, passing information through suspicious betting activities, betting patterns and stuff. But then when we look at the prediction markets, which seem created for market manipulation, and just set up for, again, it's complete in a way it's a bit like crypto trading, where if you go to Wall Street and you want to be a trader on Wall Street, there's lots of rules and regulations you need to follow, because back in the early days it was a Wild West with market manipulation and schemes and scams and all sorts of stuff. And it feels like crypto and prediction markets are just kind of speed running history and kind of replicating all the reasons why Wall Street's so regulated.
I think your speedrunning analogy is perfect. I heavily endorse regulations in the prediction market, because of exactly what you said. There are individuals, you can bet on winners of the Grammys, winners of the Oscars. There are individuals that know those outcomes. Right, wrong, or indifferent, there are individuals that already know who's won the Oscars, who's won the Grammys, and those are items that are on there. There are individuals in inner circles that know who are going to be political appointees by certain individuals. It's a market that needs higher levels of regulation, but here in the States, the CFTC, that is in charge of these markets, has chosen a hands-off approach for the past 6-7 months. That being said, as of the end of January, they've now taken an approach. Look, we need to regulate this. Over $900 million was wagered on sporting events in the past year in Kalshi and Poly Market and these predictive market strategies. So it needs regulation. And it's interesting because if you look at the language of an event contract, there's 4 areas that they're not allowed to touch. One is murder, one is war, one is terrorism, and the last is gaming. The interpretation of the word gaming, and I don't mean in the sense of gambling, but I mean gaming as a sporting event, is so broadly interpreted that it actually doesn't fall, or a sporting event doesn't fall underneath that category. A more narrow definition is needed. And I think that you're going to see a very big push in the next couple months, just like with Wall Street, of this regulation world, because it is out of control. It's too much, and it needs regulation, needs control. It's also going back to kind of the addiction comment that John made. A lot of individuals that are 18 can be involved in prediction markets versus 21 for gaming here in the United States. That's a bit of a slippery slope. And if you add one more layer onto this, I mentioned before there are 39 out of 50 states here in the country that have sports betting. The other 11, guess what they have the ability to do? Prediction markets. So while it's technically not called gambling, I'd like to reference a very common phrase here in the country. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So yes, you're not wrong in any sense of that. And being in Washington D.C., it's not going to surprise me if before the summer ends, we see these individuals moving into more of a higher regulated structure with these markets.
That's interesting because it'll completely change the how do you think it would be regulated? What do you think would happen?
I think it's going to be what type of events are allowed to be wagered on, ones that have prior knowledge. I'll give you a perfect example. When I was at Foxwoods, we wouldn't take the picks in the NFL draft. During my time here, our New England Patriots, our closest football team, everybody was a fan of the Patriots. They were not very good. So we, most cases, had 1, 2, 3. We had high-level first-round draft picks. The stadium was 45 minutes away. The Patriots probably employ close to 600, 700 employees. It's not out of the realm to realize that individuals are going to know from that organization what draft picks the organization is looking at or what players they're going to look at. You drive 45 miles down the road, 45 minutes, and you place a wager on what you know is almost certainty. We wouldn't take that bet. We wouldn't take those bets, not because we didn't trust the staff, but because I, as a manager, felt it's not a great idea to have an opportunity for someone to do something nefarious when it came to this gambling realm. That's what I think you're going to see, is regulation on items that can be very predicted in advance, if you will, or common knowledge, or ones where I've got prior knowledge on what's going on. And that is where the susceptibility is going to be. However, from an event standpoint, if you want to trade a contract with somebody else and you think your team's going to come back, that's the free economy. You're more than welcome to do that. It's these ones, though, where it's very easy to tell that there's knowledge coming into play.
Okay. That makes sense. So who's going to perform in the halftime show would be predictable in advance because there's results and there's insider.
Who's going to win the football game, the basketball game? I mean, it's no different than a sports bet.
But exactly. Even the coin flip would be okay because that's a random.
Correct.
Event, or it's not predictable. Yeah. Okay, understood. So there's also talk of are you familiar with the Safe Bet Act that's being proposed?
Yes. Actually, interesting enough, I'm from originally Connecticut. Senator Richard Blumenthal is pressing the safe bet. He's our senator and is advocating for that, which I'm a high supporter of that as well. I've made a career in the industry of gaming, but I want it to be done responsibly and I want it to be done for entertainment, not for nefarious action. So yes, quite familiar with that.
Okay, so for those that aren't, and I'm doing this from memory, so correct me. It'll be things like a watershed, so it's advertising between certain hours, no advertising during sporting events for gambling, deposit limits, or deposit, so is there 5 deposits within 24 hours or something like that, and so kind of basically just a bit more structure around when you can advertise, and then some additional player protection features, which outside of America would sound very familiar to people. Like it's,
And I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I was about to say we're just copying what other international organizations already do. I had a golf trip in 2012 over to Scotland, and Bet365, of course, was advertising. We were watching football matches, and so I'm learning the lingo. My shout out to my assistant at the University of Durham, Maddie Spratton, is teaching me all the proper terms that go with international sports. So I will say a football match, and I'm learning a lacrosse from her as well. So that's been a lot of fun. But there is no advertisements during a game. And I remember this back in 2012. You go to an American sport, there's 45 advertisements in the first quarter on sporting events. YouTube funneled with advertisements. I see so many ads because I'm in this space that it's ads 24/7. I can almost recite them. So yes, I think this is nothing that's new. It's being adopted from already established industries that we've seen internationally. And, there's a reason why that model has worked. We are in the Wild West. We're brand new. It's good to be doing things that have had success internationally and bring them over here to the States in this model. So yes, very familiar with the bill. I hope it goes through.
But it doesn't feel very American. It's like, America is famous for, I will take care of myself. Mm-hmm. And it's my responsibility to make decisions for myself.
How dare you impose rules on me?
Obviously, I'll take care of my neighbors and I'll be a good community member, but realistically, it's my choice what I do. And these types of restrictions do feel the opposite of that. Do you think it's got a chance of going far?
No. And I say that at this particular time for a couple of reasons. Number one is the best argument you have is, well, we don't know if this is going to be a problem. Smarter people know that we're going to see spikes in addictive behaviors and spikes in financial losses because of gaming. Not because gaming is this big addictive thing, because it's more mainstream. It's now available. You can be addicted to anything. There's a TV show here in the States called My Strange Addictions. A person was addicted to smelling gas. One was addicted to eating the inside of a couch cushion. It's a weird show, let me tell you. But, we're going to see more individuals in negative situations because it's a bigger product. It's just, when you expand, you also expand everything else that's attached to that. So I say no with an asterisk. If you ask me that question in, let's say, 2027, you're going to have a different response. Because you're going to see more and more individuals looking at this going, okay, we now see that over 58% of college males between the ages of 21 and 24 are placing sports bets and placing sports wagers. We're now seeing that over 60% of individuals at the collegiate level that are specifically males, it's very, very male heavy, are involved with prediction markets. We see that at the Super Bowl this year, close to $1.76 billion was wagered on the Super Bowl, which if you break that down from a viewer standpoint, that's 211 million individuals that watch the Super Bowl, 50-something percent, 54% wagered. That means 117 million individuals wagered in the Super Bowl. What you now see is a lot of people involved in something. And that was something that started the last couple of years. It's only going to expand. And what people are going to look at is say, okay, now that we have this huge amount of data to back up what's going on, this bill is going to have more traction. What we have right now is an early attempt at regulation without really any supporting data. That in about 2 years, we're going to see a little bit more supporting data and a very strong push for regulation. And that's, I love our United States government. It is great, but it is a little slow. I will admit. I think everybody will admit that here in the country. So it takes time to get things like this through.
There's a famous quote from Churchill where he says, "America will always do the right thing, but they'll try everything else first."
But there's an issue.
That's what we see.
There's an issue. I mean, one of the issues for the US in recognizing scales of problems and obviously post PASPA there was little to no infrastructure in place for what followed in terms of people having problems and shit like that. But one of the issues that led to that was there were no prevalence studies because this was entirely new. But with there being no, and I know this is a big deal for most Americans that I know, they don't believe in federal oversight.
Correct.
But this is exactly the kind of issue that would benefit hugely from federal oversight and being able to look at things in a national perspective. And without a prevalence study and without federal oversight and without somebody looking at this from an umbrella position, it's always going to be really difficult, frankly, to get any laws through.
So the wave is starting. We have 5 senators actually right now. Actually, my team that works with me here are engaged with research on the sports betting, we call it phenomenon, specifically for youth. So we have a group of 5 senators that have started essentially funding research to provide data and provide backing on this. The individuals want to go down the route of, let's see if we can get data to support the idea of federal regulation. And it's a bipartisan push, which is a rarity here in the country in 2026, which I'm very happy with. So that is in its infancy, but it's a lot better off than what we see in other ideas around federal regulation. So I think this is one of those rare issues where, despite the fact that 50% of the country does not want government oversight and doesn't want federal oversight, they do recognize that there is a time and a place where it becomes necessary. And this action is one that I think, has the uniqueness to be something that everybody's going to be concerned about. Mainly because the results are very obvious. We know if you drink too much, there's a problem. We know if you smoke too much, there's a problem. Everybody knows if you're too involved in the gaming and gambling industry, it can lead to a problem. It's not anything new. So because of this philosophy, I think that this bipartisan research crew is going to have a very good time getting data and getting information on what should be done correctly. And you're going to see some traction on a bill like this in the next coming years because you'll now have support with it. So it's in its infancy, but it's an issue that I believe hits enough individuals across both political lines and both political beliefs that will have much more traction than something else that could get pushed forward in front of Congress.
Slightly off topic, but remaining on topic. What do you think's been the best Super Bowl halftime show in your lifetime, Matt?
Easy. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, 2009 Arizona Cardinals, Pittsburgh Steelers, the hard rockin' E Street Band. That was by far my favorite one of all time. I am so, this is super hilarious. I'm so disappointed. Bruce is coming to D.C. on May 27th, and I have to go to Puerto Rico for a conference to deliver a paper presentation during his concert. And I looked at the concert date. I said, no, I'm in Puerto Rico doing an academic presentation. But that has been by far, in my opinion, one of the best ones of all time. It was classic. It was great. It didn't have a lot of flash. It resonated well with me. You can't beat the boss.
Fintan, any opinions?
I have no strong opinions on Super Bowl halftime shows.
I'll give you my second one though.
Yeah.
Had to be the Who. Had to be when the Who played that. That is my second one. I did this as an exercise. Number 2 comes in at the Who. I love that halftime show. Number 3 was Paul McCartney when he performed, and the final Hey Jude, when they had Hey Jude spelled out throughout the stadium. Were always my pro ones, but in order it was Springsteen, the Who, and Paul McCartney. Probably 3 of the best. I think
when they go for the sort of evergreen artists, so to speak. But actually, I think for an individual song, as well as bearing in mind the conditions, the artist, overall coolness, I think Prince's was phenomenal.
Purple Rain was fantastic.
The
fact that it was raining,
particularly Purple Rain.
Yes.
It's just breathtaking. Like watching it and just talking about it, I've got goosebumps. Like God knows how many thousands of times I've heard that song. But that Super Bowl version of it that's peak Prince. Like Fintan, it's biblically pouring with rain.
I've seen that clip.
Dripping off the guitar and everything. He just nails that solo. And he's wearing platform shoes, for God's sakes.
Yeah. You couldn't have scripted better Super Bowl. Was happy to see Peyton Manning get a win on that one as well. It was very unique. So yes, I should add that in my top 5. That was pretty good.
What do you? I don't know whether I should ask this. Do you have any predictions for next year's Super Bowl?
Well, I'll say, here's my first prediction. You probably noticed with Bad Bunny, it's not a classic Super Bowl halftime show. It's a combination of your artists, your video, your CGI, it's half TV, half. It is an event and an entertainment spectacle, is what I think you're going to see in the future. Our sports management program is actually housed in business and entertainment, is as an overarching major. So I'm pretty tapped into the music scene, the music industry from my other colleagues. And what my students have been explaining to me is the idea that an artist is going to come on stage, sing 4 songs with a bunch of glow sticks is not something that's going to happen. It's going to be an event. It's going to be some graphics. It's going to be some spectacle stuff. It's going to be half TV, half stadium. Times you think the artist is there and not there. It's a unique. So that's what we're going to see. Who are we going to see? It's a tough call. I'd love to see AC/DC do it. I'm a classic rock guy, and they're touring right now. I would love to see. They are on tour, and they're hitting a lot of stadiums. I know that because I was at Notre Dame last week, and they're coming to Notre Dame on September 4th, I believe. So I'd love to see that. It's always hard to pick. It's probably
I saw
mainstream.
I saw AC/DC in 1991 when they could still move.
I'd still watch that. I'm a classic rock guy, and I still love that music.
But what you're saying about the intersection of music and entertainment and how that is mutating and how people digest things is completely evolving. But I just want to throw in here for the record that Josie and the Pussycats predicted all of this.
Fair enough.
That misunderstood, undervalued classic movie predicted all of this.
You're not wrong. Yes, that it's funny how many times you look back at media that predicts the future. I think you could teach an entire class on media, TV shows and things predicting what's really going to happen 10, 15 years down the line. So
you'd have to leave The Simpsons out of it, though.
That'd be cheating. Using The Simpsons would be cheating.
That is true.
But as they themselves say, with that many episodes, they're bound to be right sometimes.
Correct.
I've a couple of questions for Matt. So Matt, as part of your chronic overachieving career, you're also a fantastic golfer.
Fantastic's asked me that. Say that 10 years ago, maybe. I'm a decent golfer now. I'm getting a little old. The back's tightened up a little bit. Yes.
But you're a
getting
PGA
old.
pro.
Yes.
Right?
Still. Penn State's program is the PGA Golf Management Program, and you become a Class A PGA professional. Which, to explain what that is I'm the individual that would run and operate the golf course. But one of the components of that is being able to teach and play the game of golf at a high level and being able to compete at a high level as well. So I went to that program, still play down here, more for fun though. My golfing days are now social days, and it's actually a great way I can spend a lot of time with my friends. In this modern tech world where we're kind of locked in or dialed in 24/7, putting a phone away for 4 hours and spending time out on the golf course just away from everything is a nice mind clear. So yeah, still can play. I will actually say Crail Golf Course is my favorite. Crail and St. Andrews were my 1 and 2, but Crail I played one of my best rounds of my life when I came across there in 2012, and that still has a special place in my heart. I also didn't realize that it's older than the United States itself, the golf course. So that was just pretty cool.
Wow.
When I saw that it was before 1776, I went, whoa. I said, okay, this is not like America, but great experience overall.
So I've started taking lessons, right? So I'm literally 3 lessons in,
okay,
plus 3 hours on the driving range.
Have they let you pick up a golf bat yet?
Oh yeah, straight in.
Okay.
What should I be as somebody with a lot more experience than me?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously golf can be quite over. It's physical, there's equipment, it's mental, it's practice. What should I be focused on for the next few months to really just kind of set myself up?
Easy question, easy answer. It is short game. Okay, it is short game. Off the tee, the best drivers still have a 30 to 60 yard spread of where shots are going to be at. Long range clubs, you're still going to have your mistakes. It's all about short game. Short game in terms of your chipping and putting. So my advice to anybody just starting out in the game is to spend a bulk of time around the putting green, around the chipping green, and working on reading a green, reading breaks, reading chip shots, understanding how to hit shots 10 to 15. Now, See, I gotta convert here.
That's okay.
Meters.
You can use yours. That's okay.
So I'm yards, but X amount of meters out. So it is short game. And understanding how your wedges and how your short irons can manipulate the golf ball. That will save you so many strokes. And I say this because you look at a golfer who shoots 97, 98 on a particular round versus one that shoots 78, 77 on a particular round. Statistically, that 77, 78 golfer only makes one more birdie than the 97, 98 round golfer. What they don't do is they don't make bogeys, they don't make double bogeys, and you're going to save all that on your short game. You're going to learn I'm not four putting. You're going to learn I'm not hitting a ball over the green. You're going to learn those kind of things and those techniques. So yes, short game is where you start. It was my specialty and my expertise, and that's what kept me competitive. I would spend a lot of time around the green, and that helps. So yes, that's what I would recommend.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And I suppose the other golf question is: given your golf experience and your sportsbook trading experience, has it helped or hindered your golf betting?
Actually, because I'm so involved in the industry, I'm actually not really allowed to bet on very many things. So let's talk the world of compliance here in America. We got a lot of that. So being a PGA professional, working golf events, and running a sports book, let's just say my dollar is not allowed to be wagered on that. So I don't partake in that world from a very specific legality reason. I'd lose my gaming license very quickly, and that would be a problem. So, however, I will give you my prediction. What it has taught me, this is what I've learned from the sport, is your best value bets are golfers after day one that are in places between 7 and 12. Now, that golfer may not necessarily win the tournament. However, from a value standpoint, their odds are usually plus 1,200 to plus 3,000, that particular range, especially if another golfer has a particular lead of 4 to 5 strokes. So if you're looking for value, take a look on a Friday morning of golfers to win the tournament and figure out who's in that 7 to 12 spot. That's your best value bang for your buck. It may not necessarily win every time, but it's one that could be in the running towards the end of the match that a low wager could yield a high result. So what I've learned is that's your space on that side. The victory lap in golf, which is winning on all 4 days, is a challenge. It's the pressure level. I mean, I played low level competitions, nothing that even compares to the international and PGA Tour space. But I do know this: watching enough golfers, the pressure that they're under. Sunday's a hard day. Sunday is a hard day to play. So a victory lap of winning from Thursday to Sunday is always a challenge. I look for value between 7 to 12 spaces in the rankings on a Friday morning. That's where I'm going to get my most yield in terms of my bang for my buck.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's an education.
It's actually, I'll throw in more at you. American baseball season is starting right now. The Boston Red Sox are a perfect example of a team that had a very bad season 2 years ago and made the playoffs this year, and actually were one game away from winning out of the wild card and going to the AL Championship Series. Individuals that are looking at sportsbook from American sports for baseball should be picking teams that were kind of hovering in that like 500 or just below 500 right now that have the potential for success. Teams like the Baltimore Orioles that look quite good on paper now with the addition of Pete Alonso and a better bullpen, which finished towards the bottom of their division. Individual teams that, have that shot of progression. The New York Mets, for example, who missed the playoffs but have a new retooled roster. If you look at future prediction, those are teams you should be targeting. Those ones in those 9 to 12 spot range over there. Not your New York Yankees, not your LA Dodgers, not your Philadelphia Phillies, although I'm a big fan, don't get me wrong. But that's almost a 50-50 bet and a lack of profitability. You're looking for something of value that could make that run towards the end. And about 3 years ago, we got super scared with the Baltimore Orioles because they were at plus 50,000 and they were above 500 going into August. So we were a little nervous on how much money we were going to take as a loss if they made a run towards the end. So that's where my value right now is a great time to pick a team that is in that, upper third echelon, had not a great season last year, but has made moves in the offseason where they're going to be successful and profitable. And who knows, come October, you could be pretty successful.
Leicester City all over again. Maybe not quite that extreme. Fabulous. Matt, part of me listens to you and I think this guy must have been alive for 3 lives already to fit all this in. Mike, do you sleep a lot or not so much?
I got that same question asked by my students yesterday. Actually, I was teaching a management section and we were talking about recruitment, and they asked, "Do you sleep?" No, I get my sleep. I get to do three things in life that most people do as their recreation and their most fun thing, and that's my job. I get to teach, which I love. I mean, it is the greatest job I get to do. I get to work in sports. Like my Wednesday involves teaching two classes and going to a basketball game. Coolest thing ever. I get to be in a really fun city that has a lot to do and a really good pulse on what's happening in the country and the world. That you get a lot of energy from that. So I think for me, I act this way because I get to do. I chose careers and I chose jobs that I very much enjoyed and had a passion for. So yes, I will admit I've thrown computers and I've had rough days. It's not all perfect. There's very hard challenges. I sing the praises, but I'm in a field in a world that I really love. So I'm always happy to be around that. And I say with my students, if I teach you one thing that sticks with you the rest of your life and makes you a better person and makes you more successful at your job, that's my reward. And basketball and sports, you won't meet outside of our AD. He's the only other person I have met in my lifetime that wants to win more than I do. I was at Howard University on Sunday morning, actually, watching lacrosse in the pouring rain and the snow, rooting on those girls to win. We won 15-5. I'll be just as passionate at the basketball game, the field hockey game, our track meets. I love the W. I love to win. And that's pretty cool.
So basically, a lesson to anybody listening.
I'm sorry?
So a lesson to anybody listening is just basically be a little bit obsessive.
True.
Chase the W. Chase the W.
I would say also find your niche and lean into it. Mine has been sports, and specifically right now, the sports betting world. Find your niche, find what you do really well, and lean into that. And use that. Golf, for example, opened doors for me. It got me onto a team in high school, and I really wanted to be part of a sports team. It got me into a great top-tier university. It helps me with conversations. Golf was never the career. It was the catalyst that led to things. Sports lets me be a teacher. So these are things I'm good at. I lean into those. And that's what I tell people and I tell my students is lean into the things that you're really good at and that you're passionate about. And you'll be surprised how that will open doors and lead to really good career opportunities.
Fintan, what am I good at? That silence says it all.
There's so many things, John. I was just trying to pick.
That is so harsh. Absolute silence and a blank expression for anybody that's just listening. Blank expression. Like a deer caught in the headlights. Oh, dear God, I can't say nothing out loud, can I?
You're great at many things. You're a fabulous writer. Yeah.
Hey, I can't write. My advisors all say not a strong writer, so that is something I'm envious of because I'm not a strong writer.
John's a great writer.
Yeah, I don't do it much, so do I?
Never said you were fast.
That's it. No, that's it. I was talking to somebody. From Clarion when I was at ICE. When I was at ICE, you missed it. And I was saying to them, doing like the longer form articles, like 2,000-3,000 words, because of the meandering way that I come to a point, because I know that I do have a very distinct writing style, but it can take me 2 or 3 months to do one of those articles.
Really?
Yeah, because the way that I approach the article, to sit down and write it, I'll do that in a morning. But all of the shit around it, there'll be interviews to be had. There'll be things that I have to watch. There'll be quotes I have to lift, research I have to check and shit like that, and just people to talk to. And I start with a question. A lot of people start knowing their destination. I start with a question and not knowing where I'm going to end up. And I think just for me personally as a reader, I find that much more interesting.
It is.
But it does mean it can take, like the one that I'm working on at the moment, I'll get it done probably by Friday. I haven't started it yet, but I started putting it together in my head in November. And it'll be the best thing I've ever written. No question. No
I look forward to
pressure.
reading it.
Oh, it'll be good. It's called The Gambling Industry Has an Image Problem.
Fair enough.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, because this is one of the things I talk about in class. Of notice the labeling of sports betting. It's not lines. The old school days was it's products. It's not gambling, it's entertainment. They're very selective in their word choice when they advertise and when they offer, and all the big industry individuals do that. And they lean heavily into, it's not gambling, it's a social movement. BetMGM Grand, for example, has a commercial with John Hamm where he enters into a local bar with friends and a random game is on and they place a wager and it becomes this really fun social party experience. At no point in time are they addressing that you're betting on a line. It's a product. You're not gambling. It's entertainment. You're not being by yourself. It's a social movement. Word choice, I think, in this industry has really mattered in its marketing strategy, and that's also cause for concern on what might be an addictive perspective, because you're thinking that you're being entertained versus doing what we know is the true word. So I'm always very very respectful of the marketing strategy, but also warning individuals, like, just remember what they're marketing and remember the product, and use solid judgment on that side. So I love your word choice analogy because it fits perfectly with the industry.
Oh, the terminology is really important, and actually, within the gambling industry, gaming and gambling are used interchangeably, and that's something we're criticized for all the time.
Yes.
Oh, look, see, they're trying to soften it. No, we do that with each other. Like, we're not trying to soften anything. It's just both words actually fit what we're talking about. And it's really interesting, but how the terminology leaves the industry wide open, and sometimes justifiably. Sometimes it is diluted and softened specifically to make it not appear to be a risk-taking endeavor.
Well, Sarah was talking to us about that with the responsible gambling. Bet responsibly. Right, puts the onus on the customer that it's.
Oh, and that's.
You're the only one who can't be responsible, who's taking it too far, or.
But that's like.
When the fun stops.
Oh, don't even finish that fucking sentence. So. Regulation is this thing that overlaps with personal responsibility. It's not instead of, and we're not making choices for people. It's a point of overlap. People still have personal responsibility, but we are in a position as an industry to point out to people, hang on a sec, lads, you might want to take a step back and think about this. And it's you're right, basically, in what you say, Fintan, in that all of these player protection tools, they all require the player to go and find them and use them and all of that, as opposed to them being innate in the product, which they could easily be.
That comes from some education on where those tools are. Two parts I'll mention here. I talk to a lot of individuals and they say, well, how do you enjoy this if there's some nefariousness? I said, my first thing is actually to set limits prior to wagering. Where most cases individuals will go to that self-exclusion or that limit or those tools that are there after negativity. I recommend doing it prior. I say to yourself, like, before emotion, there's two ways people make decisions. There's system one, which is, emotional, hot, really quick, no thought process whatsoever, what the gaming industry loves, or the calculated structure, ideal, taking your time, using information. Nobody does that. But when you're emotional, you tend to lean towards the system one structure. And I recommend, before you even start or being part of that, set that limit prior so that when emotions kick in, that barrier is already present. And that's what I talk about, how do you enjoy this responsibly? I'm like, set the limit prior. If you can't do anything when you're emotional, in about an hour and a half when that emotion calms down, you'll think to yourself, okay, I'm okay with what happened over here because I had already established in a calculated way, this is the right thing to do. I also compare this to, here in America, the vehicle world of wearing seatbelts and airbags. There was a huge push not to have seatbelts in cars, and they were seen as something that was terrible and a bad idea. And, it is a personal responsibility for a person to put a seatbelt in their car and buckle up. It is your personal responsibility. However, if I drive into work this afternoon and I'm not wearing my seatbelt, I will be fined and I will be ticketed. I think it's $150. So the merging of it's my personal responsibility to protect myself with regulation of we know this is a good thing, you'll find very few individuals who will argue that seatbelt laws are not great. We will always have some. I certainly can't say it's a blanket statement, but that came from years of study, education, and informing the public why this is a good thing. We'll see. I'm hoping to see the same in sports betting down the line here in the States of education and the formation of that merger and why it's good. Adding the personal responsibility, like you said, and merging it with some regulations that we know are necessary given the negative consequences. And in a car, it's a very bad injury. And in sports betting, it could be, well, we all know the stories.
It's funny you should say that about seatbelts, because I used to work with a guy who he had this scar just here. And it was a scar that he'd gotten because he was in a serious road accident as a teenager and ended up having keyhole brain surgery. He was very badly injured. And now he was like 17 in a car with a group of friends, not wearing a seatbelt. Now as an adult driving a car himself, I was sitting in a car with him, and all you can hear is bing, 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 bing as he's driving along because he's not putting his seatbelt on. And I'm like, dude, put your fucking seatbelt on. Oh, I don't like him. What's your scar from again? It's like, seriously, you've had the most perfect illustration of why.
I've been in taxis, particularly in Spain, where they've got like the fake buckle that they can plug in to the holster to stop the beeping.
Stop it, yeah.
There's always going to be one. I mean, we'll never limit a.
This was multiple taxis.
I said that in a sense of we'd love to think that everybody follows every rule. We love to think that everybody, there's always going to be the outliers. Shoot, in my industry, the outliers can mean a perfect quarter or your book got taken for $1 million and you're explaining to your bosses why you're in the red. So there's always going to be outliers in life. How we manage them, that's just that's part of everyday living.
Yeah,
it is. Matt, thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been an education in so many ways.
I tend to be a unique individual, so I hope I covered at least some topic that's relevant to the theme of the show.
But the course,
my talk on seatbelts and
the course,
government regulation.
Course sounds amazing. Like genuinely, sounds really amazing.
Thank you.
That bringing the intersection with hospitality as an overall and the recognition that certainly in the US, a sports book rarely exists in a vacuum.
Yes.
I think that's really, really interesting. That's a little bit of genius. That is.
Agreed.
It was. I cannot take all the credit. Steve Safran, he was the architect of the course. Very big into our lottery system here in the United States.
Good work, Steve.
Start the NENAS. So he planted the seed of the idea in August, and I sort of ran with it. It's kind of like the theory world here with my other professors. They give me the theory, they call the play. I execute it on the field. So it was a team effort. I've got great support with Dean Marchek and our dean here, and Dean Miles, which actually is kind of cool. Dean Marnell, Marnell Goins, she's actually the dean of SOC, which is communications. So not only is this a business course, we actually worked with our School of Communications to combine this into a two-part, joint venture. So can't take all the credit, but really happy with the team I work with and the individuals involved.
Well, you can take some of it, and that's fine.
I'll take 60%.
Tell them we think it's great. We're big fans.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, Matt.
Thank you very much.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Gambling Files podcast, please find us on LinkedIn. Give us a big, juicy, succulent like. That nearly went wrong. You can find us under the name The Gambling Files Podcast. You can find us on Twitter under The Gambling Files. I think the handle is just @GamblingFiles. You can connect to myself, John Bruford, or Fintan Costello, also on LinkedIn. We're also both on Twitter. And you can find all of our previous episodes at www.thegamblingfiles.com. If you enjoyed it, please share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, and we'll see you next time.